Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. I'm Kendal Burton. I'm being joined by Mr. Guy Joseph. Before the break, we were talking, one of the callers had issues with the proceedings in Parliament, the functioning of Parliament. I know you also have some issues with the way Parliament functions. I want to ask you to answer that question or express those concerns, but we'll take a call first. Good evening, you're on the air.
Yes, good evening, and good evening, Mr. Minister. Yes, I guess, are you familiar with the word nepotism?
I think we both are, yes.
Okay, because your brother called the radio station and indicated that you called him and gave him work to do right after Thomas. So what do you say on that?
No, that's not what. If he said that, that's not what happened. But I'm sure he did not say that, because the work that is spoken about here is the work that was done on the Vanna and the Wavin Poisson intakes, and that was prior to Thomas. That was for the drought. So the time when I called him, because we were searching around for a long reach excavator. There was none in close proximity, and I've explained this before. For that matter, we were delayed by 2 days because we could not find a lowboy to move the equipment because of the size of the excavator up the Lacqua Hill, because most people, a 35-ton machine is not a machine that is moved around easily. You need a solid lowboy and a powerful engine, because the two options was to go either through Sarot or through Lacqua, and in either case you had steep hills too. So and let me say here, this is not about nepotism as people indicate. We were in a crisis situation. We were thinking about importing water from Dominica. We were looking at every possible avenue to see how we could deal with the water crisis, because we are now treating this matter in isolation as if it was a regular occurrence. It was not a regular occurrence. When I stayed on the bridge at Chog the night and I called every equipment owner, my brother was in close proximity to the area, but he was not capable of handling the work that we had to do at Chok. So was he engaged at Chok? No, he was not engaged at Wadouaj either. He was not engaged in either one of the places. So, you know, and I was the one on the night when everybody had gone to bed who got all the equipment owners that I could find. I got 3 equipment owners who were mobilized. We got fuel at 1 a.m. I called for the fuel at the marina because all the gas stations were out, and we got the bridge going. So if you tell me on a day-to-day basis that I engage in calling people and give them work, I would agree with you. But when you are in a crisis situation, you deal with the crisis that is at hand, and I dealt with the drought in that manner, and I dealt with Thomas in the similar manner.
Okay, now let's
okay, Mr. Minister, I've heard you. All right, but don't you think it would have been better, to protect your own self, that you had the ministry or some official in the ministry do what you did there? Because clearly, if
he's asking,
we need
hold on, caller. He's having difficulty hearing you. He's asking, the caller is asking, if it would not have been in your interest to go the route of having somebody else in the ministry do what you did.
You see, that's the pretense. You see, putting work on people's names, pretending that. So what's the difference in instructing an engineer to call this person and give them work? I will give you an example. I was in Bexon during the trough, and I spoke to the engineers on ground, and they tell me I have no authority to hire any equipment. I must get a directive from the minister. So what's the difference?
Well, there is. Well,
what is the difference? You see, that is the problem that we have in St. Lucia. The problem is high.
I think you are wrong on this one. You are wrong on this one. Okay.
On what?
We're talking about the good governance. and good governance practices would require that you do not get involved in any matter dealing with your family directly.
I agree with you on that, sir.
So let's agree on that. I think you're wrong on this one, and I think you just admit that.
No. I
let's
agree
move on. Okay, you were
on
wrong
the
on that.
normal circumstances.
Mr. Minister, I hear you. I've heard your argument.
It is not the right thing to do.
Okay.
And ministers don't
you should not get involved as a government minister.
Okay, thank you, caller.
Okay, all right.
I am sure had it not been the trough situation, the minister would not be involved to the extent that he was involved. The present minister. When you are in a crisis situation, you are expected to lead from the front. And I didn't just tell people go and work and I wasn't there, you know. I was on the bridge until 3 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. From Sunday morning to 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon, I was on site seeing that the work was done. And I would agree with the caller that if under normal circumstances, I would pick up the phone and call my brothers and say, go and work there. That is wrong. But if we are in a crisis situation, and you are looking at, you know how many times people from the ministry would come to me and tell me, we are going to do this in that area there. Do you know anybody we can engage? So pretend that this doesn't happen. You see, that's the problem we have in St. Lucia. When we have things to hide, if I had anything to hide, there are several ways to do it. But why pretend that, okay, I have nothing to do with this, but behind the scenes, I am the one pulling all of the strings?
Okay,
what difference does it make?
Good evening, you're on the air, caller.
Good evening. I believe that the representative has already cleared himself on that matter. Because I mean, I'm watching the show, I understand. And the fact that he got involved in whether his brother looking for level, I mean, it is a plus. Thomas was a very, you know, and it's a plus on his part, you know. So I think they should be, because eventually that's what politics is. I mean, people get you into power. You get people that you know. So I believe they should give him a break on that and just, I mean, let that start all bickering and making no sense. That has been clear, and that looks like something that I don't see the issue over all these issues over it. That's just a simple matter. He gave his brother a contract to Tom, and he said it wasn't a contract. He explained that it was just, you know, and they even look for people, you know. So I watching the show, I've already understood. So I mean, people should just ease up on that, you know.
Okay. Thanks for calling.
If people want to talk about nepotism, I'm going to publish a list. Since this Labour Party came into office, people who are closely affiliated to the Labour Party, how many of them have been placed in consultant jobs, in positions overseas? And now we will have to start declaring everybody who gets a job, what is their affiliation to a minister. But you see, we are going down a dangerous road because we are a small country. Everybody is connected one way or the other. And so, if you go down the chain of families, you would find too many families are connected. I know of valuable government assets that was sold to family members by the previous Labour administration. I know wives of ministers who got big jobs on behalf of the government. Would I say that is nepotism? You have not heard me saying anything about this. Because when you live in a small society, there are certain things that will happen. But since the Labour Party wants to go down that road, I will be happy to engage them. And then we would have to call for the relationship that exists between persons when they get a job.
Let's take another call. Good evening. You're on the air, caller.
Yes, good evening, sir. I appreciate that opportunity that is given, and I believe that we need to really look at, in this country, I mean, politics is about, to a great extent, about taking control of resources and a lot of phrasing and a lot of that sort of stuff is used. But I think, given the nature and the ideology of the present administration, people need to be aware that one of the things that they do is to manipulate information and to phrase it, to me, way beyond what the opposition is now doing. And to a great extent, they know how to manipulate you know, and to send these messages. But it is so sad when in a small society like we have in St. Lucia, these are people that we know, a very small population, people that we know, our relatives and so on. And it is so unfortunate that there's clearly, if somebody says anything against the administration now, they are threatened, they're silenced, they're taken to court. A muzzle is on your mouth. Yet still, they use every possible avenue to go about smearing and phrasing information and putting it, and I believe that this is not good for our democracy. I am very concerned that this is not democratic, you know, and people should be given, well, we have to be responsible when we make statements, but I'm seeing clearly, and people complain about it a lot on the ground, but I believe that we need to stand up in this country and say enough is enough. People should be responsible about statements that are made, not just about administration, but about everybody. And parliamentarians and politicians must be clear. We want to, you know, you will want to persuade people, but do it in a very fair manner, that at least proper information and facts are given out in proper context, that people can make good decisions and the country can move forward.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I want to get you to respond to that earlier caller who expressed concern about the function of Parliament.
I have been in Parliament. This is my 8th year in Parliament. And I have never had an uninterrupted presentation during budget. Every single occasion, the members opposite me have tried to derail me in my presentations. Some of them have walked out. They create noise. I mean, the cameras don't pick up half of what happens in Parliament. And that's why I tell you, for a place that is called, where people are called honorable, this is one of the most dishonorable places that I have been in my life. Because at the end of the day, the conduct, the behavior, I have seen them waving their hands and calling us rogues, and I mean, it's just the obscene language you don't hear, but you can figure out what they have said. You have to watch the despicable behavior of the present Labour administration when they were in opposition and even presently in the House. And you know what? I sit there and I take all of it. They have called me every possible name. I saw the gentleman having to apologize for the name calling of President Obama. But when I was called a poodle in the House, you know what was done? Every justification was found by supporters of the Labour Party. And then recently I heard another statement about Chihuahua or whatever, whether it was somebody's name. And I said the Labour Party knows a lot about dogs. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you have to know that these are the people who want people to respect them in authority. But they do not conduct themselves in a respectable manner. When I come, when people make their presentations, I listen. I take my blows because I know I can give. But they always try to derail me when I'm in Parliament. And on several occasions, the speaker have to call them because the cameras are usually focused on 1 or 2 persons. But it would be interesting to just come and sit there and watch the behavior and listen to what these people say about me when I stand up to speak. Because you know what they figure out? I'm uneducated. I don't have no name. I don't, where I come from, a bus driver I used to be. But you know what I have? I have integrity. And I've always told them, I can stand for myself because I know I did not do anything illegal in government. I stand by the fact that they can do, as this book says, lapses and infelicities. And St. Lucians who want to understand, and I'm not giving Rick a plug on this, you know, people who want to understand the politics of St. Lucia need to read these documentaries, read these books, and understand first-hand information, what these people say. And when you read about Dr. Vaughan Lewis and what the Labour Party, Rainbow's Edge, when you read this and you read what is there, and you see, I'm not for sale.
Let's take another call. We'll talk about that later. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Kendal, good night.
Good night.
Honorable Guy Joseph, good night.
Good night.
I have riddles in, or riddles. Riddles on nepotism, because I heard a caller call on nepotism. How many schools did the Labour administration build between 97 and 2006? Can anybody answer that?
5, I think.
Who was the Minister of Education at that time?
Mario Michel.
Who did all the electrical work on all those schools and maintenance on all those schools? When we had other electrical contractors like John Francis, we had the guy from Marysville, we had a whole lot of them. Who did all
Well, I
that?
can't tell you who
Another
did the
riddle,
job.
another
so-
riddle, another riddle again. A certain gentleman, a certain honorable deputy now, well, it's a riddle I'm asking, but there is a certain deputy. His brother was responsible, who had a contract for cleaning beaches. Which minister was that? Also, there was a minister who was a minister of commerce. I need to know which minister whose brother had the contract for transporting rice, sugar, and flour from the docks to the government warehouse. You know, these are riddles. I want these riddles answered. Good night.
Thanks for calling.
I can't answer these riddles because
Yeah. Let's move on. We have another call. Let's take that call. Good evening. Hello.
Hello?
Hi, you're on the air.
Hold on.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm going to call tomorrow. I'm going to have a press conference tomorrow. This is Philip J. Pierre.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to have a press conference tomorrow, but I just thought I would just come in and speak about the House of Parliament. And, you know, I always make that point because all the matters are dealt with by the honorable member from Cashew South. I will deal with it clearly because letters were misread, information was thrown around. The letter that the minister spoke to, I never read it in the Parliament. Anyhow, that's for tomorrow. But the point I want to make, and I want to invite everybody to listen tomorrow, but the point I want to make is about behavior in Parliament. Has the honourable member ever seen the behavior in the Parliament, in the House of Parliament in London? Has he ever seen the behavior of Parliament in Trinidad, in Barbados, in Dominica, in Taiwan, even in the Great House of Representatives? So that member displayed my house on television. He was part of a government where my house was put on a video in the Parliament. I never complained. I sat and I took it, only to find out that wall was a government wall that was built by the government long before I was born. And I said nothing. So when we take on these righteous postures, tell this member what he said about me on public platforms. These righteous postures that we take to fool people, I think we should stop it. It's hypocrisy because Parliament is the place where jocularity happens. But all these accusations will be dealt with tomorrow at a press conference because it is unfair to read letters that were not read in Parliament, to look at events that did not occur. And
so, Deputy Prime Minister, what about
yes,
that letter that you did read that he's saying that was not made an official document of the House?
I made it an official. The document is in the House of Parliament now. If you call tomorrow, you will find all of them. And not only that, you will also find a memorandum from the staff of WASCO describing the work that I spoke to. And issues I'm dealing with are letters written on the 2nd of April, and a response came the 2nd of April. The letter is written by the manager of WASCO. That's the letter I'm speaking about. And that's the letter I'm going to show to the press tomorrow. Not the letter. That letter is mentioned. I never mentioned that letter. The letter, and it quotes, "It is customary and indeed industry practice to hire equipment on an hourly and daily basis. We are familiar with rates as high as $300 per hour. And this type of work, and given the scope of work, the resultant invoices suggest an unconscionable hourly rate." That wasn't written by you. It was written by WASCO, relating to an invoice that was sent
to work done for Wasco. These matters are going to be cleared tomorrow, and I'm going to show the press exactly the letter I was speaking of. Finally, tomorrow, I'm going to show the press all the work that was given, to who it was given to, and the amounts that were paid. And finally, that response on brothers, it mustn't appear as if I've said you mustn't give your brothers work. I never said so. What I said was that same member was on radio, on Choice Radio, some weeks before, accusing me of giving relatives work during the Christmas Eve event. That's the issue. And there's absolutely no truth in that issue. So that was the response. So since the matter is open, tomorrow the whole world will hear the facts. That minister, the member wants documents. I'm going to list them. I'm going to give the days, the dates, the amounts, who it was paid for, and what it was paid for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
A couple issues. On the issue that the minister just raised there. And that is when you get second-hand information again. I never said he was giving his relatives work. I said I know the relationship. And I don't know whether relationship means only relatives. I spoke about relationship. It could be business relationship. It could be partnership relationship. It could mean 100 other things. But they choose the relatives. Now the minister said that he don't know the letters that I'm talking about. But let me read you one line of the letter that he just read there. And I don't have that good memory to recall. But it says, it is customary and indeed industry practice to hire such equipment on an hourly basis. We are familiar with rates as high as $300 an hour for this type of work, and given the scope of work, it is, I have some difficulty picking up the words because of my print, but it says, it suggests that it is unconscionable. This is the same letter that the minister just read there, you know. So the impression that he's giving you, that he does not have a clue what letters. You can read it. I have it underlined. The quotation that he just read there. Look it on my letter.
Yeah, $300 an hour for this type of work, and given the scope of work, the resultant invoice suggests an unconscionable hourly rate. Yeah.
Exactly. So he says that I don't have the documents and I don't know what I'm talking about. All these letters are bundled together. But you see, that's why I said I will not come and sit down and take the time of this show to read the details of every one of the letters. But all the letters came to me in the same package.
Okay. A lot of other issues I would have liked to have engaged you on, but we're out of time. I want to thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Guy Joseph, former Communications and Works Minister. I want to give you 30 seconds to make any parting words.
I just want to thank the people of Castries Southeast and to tell them that we will continue to work together and to let all UWP supporters in St. Lucia to reassure them that the party is on the right track and we are going to represent their interest and see to it that the fear that the Labour Party wants to instill in the people of St. Lucia to affect our democracy, that the UWP will not sit by idly and let it happen.
Once again, thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Join us next week for another program. I'll see you then.